you're not going to get a small fine and off you go. It's like, no, you could have a black bag put over your head and you could be in Guantanamo because of this shit. So I think it's important that we know what's going on and how things are done.
Obviously, there's got to be things that are kept secret. But when you have that power to say, oh, X, Y, Z things need to be secret, no one's really going to ask too many questions when you say A, B, C things also need to be secret, and A, B, C things happen to be shady shit.
They don't realize, like, we have gone so far beyond what was spoken about in 1984, and people are just like, meh, whatever. I like my Facebook.
You shouldn't be spying on allies or whatever. But meanwhile, like, he's outing the fact that the NSA is spying on its own damn people. Nope, 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 nope.
Yep. Nope.
Welcome to another Kitchen Sink Microscopy. I'm Casey Rochford.
And I'm Eric Rosenblatt. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you're feeling generous, try to go and support the show at patreon.com/KSMvidcast, and stick around to the end of the show because we write our own music and there's going to be a new song, hopefully, unless we've run out of songs.
Never.
So what would you like to talk about today, Casey? Is this a game of charades?
Well, I'm just having a crappy attempt at whistling because there's some whistleblowing going on in the news lately.
Yeah.
With there's the Trump Ukraine thing. There's this rapper 6X9 or whatever, and there's been stuff in not too distant history like Snowden and all that stuff, and I thought it would be interesting to talk about whether or not snitches should get stitches.
Yeah, that's a pretty good topic, actually. It's something I'm pretty interested in, and and I heard about a couple of recent things. I haven't heard about the second one you mentioned, other than the name, so I don't know what's going on there.
I don't know much about it either. I saw a whole bunch of silly memes about him like tattling on everybody, like it's got him sitting next to Darth Vader and saying like where the rebels are or something. And I was like, I asked somebody and they're like, oh well, basically he's outing a bunch of gang members, and I'm like, isn't that a good thing?
Yeah.
Like, don't we want to like get the gangs off the streets? I don't know.
Well, you would think so, yeah. Interesting.
I see that this is kind of one of those polarizing things where people place loyalty above morality, where I tend to look at it the other way around. Like, morality will always take precedence over loyalty to whatever, your job or your co-workers or your friends or whatever. If somebody's doing something wrong, it needs to be outed.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. I think knowing the truth, especially when something is awful, right? Somebody or a group or an organization or the state is doing something awful in secret. I think it's valiant of people to expose that, and I think it's important that everybody knows what's going on.
Yeah,
because otherwise, it'll continue, and you're right, it does polarize people. Snowden is a great example of that. There are people that see Edward Snowden as a hero, and then there's others that say he's a traitor. Like there
Yeah.
almost seems to be no in between, and I find that fascinating.
I'm in between. I mean, not necessarily about what he did. I do kind of fall on the side that he's a hero for, bringing to light what the NSA is actually doing to the country.
Well, and
uh,
I agree, because the things that I suspected before, that people called me, said, oh yeah, tinfoil hat stuff. I'm vindicated now.
yeah,
It's like, oh yeah, I was totally right about that. And I think a lot of people suspected those things, and now we have proof, confirmation.
yeah,
And that's good. And people
yeah,
who had no idea now know. But anyway, so
yeah,
sorry, I kind of cut in there and interrupted. Go ahead.
yeah. I mean, I guess where I fall in the middle is like I don't necessarily like agree with the guy on politics and stuff like that, but his you know I'm not going to base his political opinions on like they're two separate things. There's a dichotomy. There's like what he did and what he believes and stuff, and I think what he did was brave and very important, and um I'm just not going to conflate the two, so in that way I'm kind of in the middle on him. Like I don't necessarily like the guy, but I think what he did was right. So
Well, yeah, because facts, politics has no connection to facts, basically, or
exactly.
someone's views on a thing, whatever it might be, their personality or their whatever their beliefs.
Yeah,
It's
it's
irrelevant.
important that we don't let that shit get in the way of our opinions about particular actions that people take.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, the stuff that Snowden provided is uh, pretty. Um, I mean, the scope of it is immense. It's crazy. It's like, this is stuff we should know. It's one thing if it's international spying and stuff like that, but when it's internal, when it's the state spying on its own citizens and the tools it uses and how extensive it is and how deep it goes, like, we need to know that. Um, Especially because of the implications. It's not like you're gonna, you're not gonna get a small fine and off you go. It's like, no, you could have a black bag put over your head, and you could be in Guantanamo because of this shit. So I think it's important that we know what's going on and how things are done. And yeah, I commend him for that. Like, I think the fact that he essentially gave up his life for to let people know, that is
Yeah,
the ultimate bravery. I mean, yeah, he's still alive, but he's like sequestered in an embassy. Like, he
yeah,
can't come back to his home country.
yeah,
And
yeah.
he thought
His life as he knew it is over
yeah,
for sure.
and
And
he thought that was so important for people to know that he was willing to sacrifice that. And however you feel about the guy, like, I think that's important to consider.
yeah, I think there's a huge distinction that needs to be made between snitches or tattletales and then whistleblowers, because I think the intent is king. Like you really have to pay attention with anything. I'm always preaching this. Like, intent is very important.
I agree.
It,
Yeah.
yeah, because his intent wasn't to just you know get somebody or like make money off of it or something. He actually saw some wrongdoing, quite a bit of wrongdoing, and um, sacrificed you know his way of being for the
Mhm.
rest of his life, basically,
Yeah.
to let the people know. And I mean, like, for what good? What have we done about it, even?
Yeah. But I guess
What
at
can
least,
we do about
well, probably not a lot, but at least you know, knowing your enemy, basically, or knowing what you're up against is a major factor. And having confirmation of suspicions is pretty
it? Yeah,
valuable. like, you could suspect something, but now there's confirmation. Yes, this is the way the NSA and the CIA and the FBI and whatnot, these are the tools they use. Obviously now they're different. Things have evolved since then, but at least we have kind of a ballpark of what kinds of, not necessarily, it's not about the specific software and hardware tools they're using and the methods. It's knowing that they're doing it at all. Like, the fact that now everybody knows every single thing that they do through any electronic system is intercepted and spied on. Like, that's valuable. So,
Yeah.
though we can't, like, necessarily, as an individual or as a show, a YouTube channel, we can't necessarily change things, but at least knowing that those things exist gives you kind of an idea of what you need to do to respond to it in whatever way you need to. So
Yeah.
what it is.
With all that cloak and dagger shit and all the power that the NSA wields, it strikes me funny that a couple months ago, wasn't Attorney General Barr trying to get backdoors built into every website so he could, basically like look at whatever information he wanted?
Yeah,
Like, don't
well,
they have
that's been
enough
tried.
info?
That has actually been tried. The Clipper chip back in the 90s, you may recall that, and anybody could look that up. It's kind of interesting. Or, the Total Information Awareness program that eventually transmogrified into some of the systems that are around today. Basically, like, all knowing, all seeing eye, like watching over all, like, complete electronic surveillance. Very Big Brother, very 1984. And people talk about that and they don't realize, like, we have gone so far beyond what was spoken about in 1984, and people are just like, meh, whatever, I like my Facebook, and so it's kind of interesting. But yeah, what about, speaking of whistleblowers? Edward Snowden is definitely, like, kind of the top tier of that. What about Chelsea Manning?
I don't know much about that.
So, well, she was a he at one point in time, in the past, and connected with the military. I think a soldier in the
Huh.
army, I think it was. But anyway, she released a bunch of documents and data and things like that, that shed light on what was going on in Iraq and Afghanistan, basically kind of undoing all of the positive spin the media had on it. All the propaganda saying, like, oh, US soldiers are so awesome and we're doing so much good. And then you see that video
Was that
of
the
the
Abu Ghraib stuff,
no,
or
that was another, that's another secret military base where torture happened, or didn't happen officially, but whatever. um well, and that maybe some stuff came to light from that. I'm not entirely certain because I haven't read everything, because there was so much data released. But you know through one of the things, there was that Baghdad airstrike, I think it was, that was the title given to it, where US forces gunned down a bunch of civilians who were reporters, by the way. So they just killed them, like a reporter or something, from a helicopter or a drone or whatever. They were shooting them, and then somebody came to help, and they shot them, and more people were shot. I think it was like 10 people in all, killed, and they were civilians. And there were a number of other things released that kind of showed how dark our actions actually were. That, like, our hands weren't clean at all, and we were definitely not. Uh, we weren't necessarily the good guys. A little more gray. Like, there
I,
were
I was I was not even aware of that. But
yeah.
what when did that happen? Was that
Um,
recently?
yeah, in the 2000s, like late 2000s, 2010,
Oh, okay.
like that, somewhere around there. I don't remember the exact date, but I'm sure you could
I
Google
tell
it.
you what, if I was commander in chief and I saw that come out, uh, there'd be a lot of dishonorable discharges coming down the
Yeah.
pike, I think.
Well, Chelsea Manning did get a court martial, and of course, the military was um, very much against what she did, and ultimately, I think Obama pardoned her in the end. So I got to give him credit
Good.
for that. Like, that's the
Yeah.
right thing to do. Um, but there's still a lot of bad blood there. There was stuff about Guantanamo Bay that was released that because when you see in the media things about Guantanamo Bay, they paint it as like, oh, it's just it's okay. It's really not that bad of a place. And then we learned, oh no, there was a lot of torture, and it was a really horrible place. And a lot of well, as we know, most of the people there weren't even connected with terrorism. I could do a whole episode on Guantanamo. I don't even want to start. I don't even want to talk about that. Secret military, a U.S. military base on the, uh, you know, inside a country that we can't even, well, at the time couldn't even go to. That was supposed to be our enemy, I guess. Like, good God, uh, you know,
Yeah.
secret trials and man, I God have some more beer.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously there's got to be things that are kept secret, but when you have that power to say, oh, XYZ things need to be secret, no one's really going to ask too many questions when you say ABC things also need to be secret and ABC things happen to be shady shit. So,
Yeah,
like, I think that in that respect, whistleblowers are an absolutely important, vital part of our uh, of the human race. Really, like
sure.
anywhere that this bad stuff is happening, there needs to be people with the guts to say, "Hey, a bad shit's happening over there."
Yeah, and it doesn't apply just to the state. It can also apply to businesses or
Yeah,
organizations or something like that. If somebody's doing something wrong, it needs to come to
the
light.
police force.
Yes, that's another one. But it's important to expose these closed systems for what they are, if they're representing themselves as something that they're not and doing harm.
Hmm.
Because all too often people stay silent, and that is absolutely wrong. So I have to say, like, whistleblowers definitely deserve a lot more credit for whatever, however you feel about whether it's treasonous or whatever. you know I got a problem with treason anyway, that whole stance, like, just because you counter the state or you expose information, like, well, if they're doing something wrong, like giving a bunch of black people syphilis, um, you know we should probably know about that. Or about to kill a bunch of American citizens in a false flag attack to go to war with Cuba, you know, those are things we need to know. So, and all too often, this is the thing, like you said, the state secrets privilege and kind of things like that, having stuff be secret for certain reasons, it's abused. It's used all the time. Every single thing is a state secret. It can't possibly be that way. You know, yes, if you're engaged directly in some sort of operation, there's a thing happening, and if information is immediately available that could possibly put somebody at risk, you're like, I get it. Yeah, you have to keep secrets in the now, right? Because you're doing a thing now, but not 50
Yeah,
years later, not
yeah,
even 10 years later, not when the whatever it is, the whatever you've done, it has concluded, it needs to come to light. And
yeah.
I think that's important, especially if it's going the wrong way, because
Right.
it does very, very often. And you know, the state will, you know, pull that state secrets card all the time, saying, well, you know, if this information comes out, there's going to be people put at risk, our soldiers or whatever, you know, they're gonna die. What? That's bullshit. You know,
Yeah.
it's usually not the case. It's just that they're doing something shady. They're doing something they don't want people to know about, and so they employ that tactic, and then push out a bunch of propaganda like, oh, you know, soldiers are gonna die and the cops are gonna die and whatnot, and you know, it's
Yeah.
nonsense.
Yeah, I thought it was funny, like the whole Snowden thing. I think he brought out something about the five eyes. Is that, am I getting that right? Five
Oh,
fingers. Uh, uh, America, Canada, Britain, Australia, New Zealand, or whatever. They're like these five, I don't know, Wonder Twin powers kind of thing. They all share information or whatever and keep an eye on the rest of the world so that they can maintain power or whatever. But anyway, they were saying stuff like, oh, well, you shouldn't be spying on allies or whatever. But meanwhile, like, he's outing the fact that the NSA is spying on its own damn people. Well,
yeah, yeah.
are
It's
you
like
being a hypocrite or what? Or are you just completely ignoring that? You know?
that's the thing. Yeah, the hypocrisy is ridiculous. It's getting out of hand, and you know, I mean, not to go on too far of a tangent, but it is kind of, I do have a problem with hypocrisy. Like, I mean, even the whole thing with Iran having nuclear arms or something like that. You know, we're sitting there telling them they can't have nukes while we have a giant stockpile of nuclear arms. Like, well, you no, you know, lead by example. If you think that that's a bad thing, then get rid of it.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that's the thing. So they're sitting there spying on all of us all the time. I mean, oh boy, you if you start looking into this stuff, the NSA and the CIA and the FBI and their surveillance state, at least just in the US alone, you will go down a rabbit hole that you will make you foam at the mouth like Alex Jones. Like, it is crazy how far down it goes. And this is the thing. It's not science fiction. It's not just somebody's fantasy. This is reality. And, you know, every once in a while you have somebody like Edward Snowden that comes along and solidifies all of those suspicions. And so, you know, I wonder, how far does it really go? Because he didn't release all the information, just some of it.
Yeah.
But it was awful scary, that kind of stuff. Man, and it is the thing. It's used to. They say this technology is employed to prevent terrorism, yet, of course, most of it is used for non nonviolent victimless crime enforcement. You know, it's like shifted to going after prostitutes and drug dealers and whatnot. You know, it's like, well, you just lied right there. So there's that.
Yeah.
But you know, it's supposed to protect us from terrorists, and it but it's like we're giving up our freedom to protect ourselves against people who are intent on getting rid of our freedom. I don't know. I mean, it's like this whole big
I
ass
mean,
mess.
here's the thing. Terrorism is not even a thing we need to worry about. It hasn't been a thing we need to worry about for 15 damn years. I
Yeah,
mean, it's like it's mind-boggling that we still fall for this buzzword. Like, of course there are terrorists. Yeah,
sure.
there's always going to be. The war on terror is ridiculous. It's not like there's an end game to that.
No, it's like the
It's
war on drugs, basically, or the war on poverty, or something. Like, that's a never-ending war. Like, you
yeah,
can't win that. You know?
yeah. Basically, we haven't really gone to war to protect our freedom for close to 80 years or so.
Yeah, I'd say World War II was the last time that
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah,
And
basically that was the last step, because we weren't even going to dip our toes into that until we got attacked, and then we did something
yeah,
to the country that attacked us. And then, like, that made sense. That was the last time a war effort from America actually made sense. And ever
yeah,
since then, it's just been like a cash grab, or there's some kind of ulterior motive to it.
sure. It's
And
probably control, for whatever reason. Now, I would
mhm,
say, yeah, World War II, especially the Pacific theater, it was definitely justified. Like, we were directly attacked, and they were, you know, it was a real thing. Like, there were things happening to our country. Um, the only and that's probably the last time we went to war for a defensive reason, like a directly defensive reason. The first Gulf War might be kind of legit in the sense that somebody asked for our help, and we went and helped them because they were being invaded and they wanted our help. And it was a quick operation. We went in, we did what we had to do to repel their attackers, and then we left. And I think that's probably okay too. Like, if your friends
yeah,
getting beat up, it's okay to come in and defend them. You know,
yeah,
but
yeah. So I mean, I was saying the last time we went to defend our freedom was World War II, but I guess I misspoke when I said everything else has been a cash grab. That one probably was pretty legit, but and I mean we did have to respond to 9/11, but it's really hard to respond in a military fashion to a philosophy, that like terrorists.
yeah, well, and
Uh,
that's the thing. Like, in World War II, whether you're talking Europe with Germany or the Pacific side with Japan, um, there was a whole country kind of unified in one. It was like the enemy was pretty clear. But in the terms of terrorism, especially from the 9/11, that variety, um, it wasn't a country. Like you said, it's an
yeah,
ideology. It's a few people in a bunch of different places that felt something. And so, how do
yeah.
you go to war with
Well,
that? Like,
I
you know,
think the worst casualty of that was, I mean, I'm no fan of religion, but I think the thing that took the hit the most was religions, because the media and politics, they fused terrorism with Islam, and
yeah,
and then ignorant people lumped everything that they thought looked like Islam in with Islam, like uh I'm forgetting the name.
the Sikhs.
Sikhs, yes.
Yeah, yeah. I've actually
Um,
had to defend a Sikh once because of that, because people were
yeah,
like, "Oh, you got like a turban on your head," and I'm like, "No, these guys are totally different. You
yeah.
want them on your side
Super
if you're
nice,
scared
super nice, super peaceful religion. It's a fairly young religion, and they're nothing but respectful, and it has nothing to do with Islam, and people
well,
just don't understand that, and then they act, you know with this bigotry, because they've got it burned into their heads that terrorism is a everyday threat that they might stumble across in the subway or whatever, and it's all fear and fiction.
yeah, from morons. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's I- yeah. I mean, that is the thing. It's sort of this kind of ignorant, emotional thing, and it's people don't bother to investigate what is going on, like dig a little deeper, learn something about, hey, know your enemy. Isn't that a Sun Tzu thing from the Art of War? If not, why not? It totally
Yeah.
should be. um but you should know your enemy, so if you really do fear something, like, go understand it. And people, yeah, people totally didn't. And because they get their information in sound bites from the media. They read the headlines and that's it. Um, and of course, the state, especially the military, is more than happy to aikido your emotion and turn it into cash, like more power, more control, and a green light to go ahead and use our super cool technology on innocent people to kill them. And we've been doing it. People just need to stop and think a little bit. And that's where I
Yeah.
think like whistleblowers are really good, because they bring out the reality. And Chelsea Manning, for instance, revealing all this stuff about all of the bad things that happen with the armed forces of the United States. Not that they're bad. I mean, I don't think that most people that serve in the US military are good people and they have good intentions. But, when things get intense, it changes, and it changes people, and they do bad things. Like I don't know that most of the people that served in World War II in Germany were necessarily bad people, but they got caught up in something
Oh
and
yeah.
they were swept away by it. And then, there's the whole like, well, you don't want to speak up, don't rock the boat, because if you do, people are going to hate you, or you could wind up dead, or something like that. So they just go with the flow, and there you go. That's how you have Nazis.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's never black and white. There's a lot of people that uh, have this heroes all fallacy where they're like, well, um, if somebody is a troop or a police officer, I've got to assume that they're a good person and they're risking their life for their country and they can do no wrong. And that last sentence, or that last phrase, I should say, uh, is the fallacy part. It's
Mhm.
like, yes, all those other things are true, but they can still be a bad person. They can still do bad things, and it's irrespective of their vocation. You know, like,
Yeah.
yes, they're a soldier. Yes, they are doing something brave, but they can still do shady things, and you can't just assume that, you know, um, because they wear a badge and um, or wear their camouflage or whatever, like the uniform doesn't somehow bestow upon them this angelic sense of being incapable of doing wrong. and
Well, yeah.
and there needs to be people who call that out and have them be accountable for it, because if we start to see like what we see now with police, there's a lot of mistrust for police on the whole, because on the other end of that logical fallacy you have hero busting, where people think, oh, just because he's a cop he's a dick. That's not true either. And
Yeah.
like, we really just can't fall on either side of the fence. We've got to sit on top of the fence where we can see everything.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you got to understand, everybody needs to understand that these people, police or military or politicians or whoever, they're human beings, susceptible to all of the negative effects of being a human being. The good and the bad. Like, you could be altruistic, you could be evil, like somewhere in between. Like, that's how people are. They're neither good nor bad. And just because you have a title doesn't change that. And you can respect somebody, like if a cop for putting their lives on the line to do dangerous things, or a soldier for going into unknown territory and fighting for what they believe in. You can respect them for that, but you shouldn't put them on a pedestal either. They're not a god. They're not infallible. They're just a human being doing a job. And
Yeah.
so that's basically it. And they can make mistakes. Everybody can make mistakes. They do all the
Yeah.
time.
I really, I look at respect in a very distinct and unique way. I think I see it in tiers. Okay, so I I give basic human respect to everybody. This is like a base level.
Yeah.
And then, a step up from there, if I see a person, you know, I've never met them before or whatever, but they're doing something like being a police officer or a soldier, I automatically have this respect for them taking a risk and doing something that is, benefit of the doubt, very altruistic.
Mhm.
Then you get into the more narrow focus stuff. Like if I see interactions with other people that don't look right, that respect's going to go down a little bit. Or vice versa. If I see them like doing something really kind and that warms my heart, it makes me feel respect for them. And then if I have personal interactions with them, that's where it gets really focused. That's where I can say I know for a fact that this person is either worthy of respect or maybe not such a great person. And none of that has anything to do with the uniform they wear or the rank they have or the title they hold at whatever business or government office. That focus, that personal experience is what really I call like respect. When I say I don't automatically respect people that I haven't even met, I'm not saying like I don't give them basic human respect or anything like that. It's just that I've got no interactions with them, so nobody deserves my respect right off the bat. It's something that you build.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. I think it's kind of like a sliding scale, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe a few sliding scales that are kind of interconnected. It just depends on how you look at things. But yeah, because these are people. Like
Yeah.
they're just humans like us doing a thing. And yeah, if they do something extraordinary, then I think about like the 9/11 first responders. Like these are people who, firefighters or whatever, who would normally just kind of, put out a fire. But while everybody was running out of the building, these guys ran in, guys and girls, I guess, ran in there. So they face danger to save people. And so that brings the respect level up quite a bit.
Yeah.
Um, you know, but it's, it's not a category. It's a human thing. It's
Hmm.
just you have to look at it from an individualistic standpoint. Like people are people. They're all different. They have different experiences and different ways of thinking. And you can't just say, oh, because that person is a cop or they're a spy for the CIA or they're a soldier or something, that they're all the same. It's this homogenous group or something like that. And they're all good or they're all bad.
Yeah.
Like, no, it doesn't work that way. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I think there needs to be more whistleblowers in the police force because I really don't want to see them become disrespected. Uh, I mean, it's teetering on becoming the way that America at large disrespected troops in Vietnam. Like it wasn't their fault that they were in Vietnam. They
Some
were
of them
doing
were
their job.
drafted, for God's sake.
Yeah,
They didn't have
yeah.
any choice. So how can you spit on them or, call them names?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but like I don't want to see that happen with police because they do have a very important job
sure.
to protect and serve. It's just that if we have police officers that are not protecting and serving, they're doing the exact opposite. Uh, the brotherhood mentality is doing the exact opposite of what they should be doing. They need to be whistleblowing. Instead, they're going, well, my loyalty is more important than what's right.
Yeah. And I think it's important for the general public to support people who bring these kinds of things to light.
Yeah.
Support these people because they're putting things on the line, whatever it might be, if it's their job or a paycheck or maybe their life, you know, um, they felt it was important, and I think it really is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And totally, yeah, I agree with you about the police. Like, I think most cops are actually good people, or at least they have good intentions. But there's compartmentalization, and there is this brotherhood mentality, which is not unique to the police force. It exists in the military. It exists in government organizations. It exists in businesses. You know, and people don't want to step outside that. They don't want to betray. They don't want to appear to betray people that they work with in that capacity. But I think it's important, because if people are doing wrong things, people need to know about this. We need to know about it.
Yep.
Whatever it is, you know, like we think about whistleblowers, and we think about, like, you know, Snowden and Manning, and, you know, Julian Assange from WikiLeaks and stuff like that. And it's like, well, it could be as simple as a small business that you work at, like a little restaurant or something, just calling out the bullshit that happens.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to be. It doesn't have to be epic to be important, I guess.
Yep.
That's just my thought.
Yeah. And you know, I think a lot of people think I'm overly critical of police when I say that, you know, you don't have to be the guy beating up on the black guy, or shooting him, you know, after 2 seconds of a warning or whatever, to be part of the problem. Because I mean, a great man once said, uh, there comes a time when silence is betrayal.
Yeah.
Martin Luther King. Um,
Hmm.
and if you're not calling out the bad activities, you're taking an active role in letting it continue.
Yeah, you're complicit in those things. I
Yeah.
mean, you're essentially saying, "I'm okay with this."
Yeah.
And
So if we don't have whistleblowers, how are we ever going to know that things are going wrong?
yeah, exactly.
Only until it's too late, I guess.
Yeah, or when it's written down in the history books, you know.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, imagine how different it would be if whistleblowers, well, yeah, I guess whistleblowers came out during the days of, like, the brown shirts rounding up the Jews and stuff like that in the 30s. How different would history be now if somebody had spoken up? I mean, it brings to mind that age-old poem, "If They Came," which people should look up, because you should think about that. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
Lloyd agrees, I guess. Oh yeah,
Floyd's blowing the whistle.
yeah. I've done
He's like,
nothing wrong.
Eric, let there be an empty spot in my food dish. I can see the bottom of it. He's starving me.
He really does think that. Yeah. Yeah, I think we we covered quite a lot. I mean, you know, I'd like to talk about the current, like, whistleblower event, the this whole, like, Trump Ukraine thing, but I think it's still kind of unfolding currently as we talk about it. So there's not, like, a lot of
Yeah.
facts. There's a lot of, like,
Yeah.
conjecture and people just, like, making shit up. So we'll probably revisit that one. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I was just thinking we didn't really talk much about that, but it's definitely kind of fresh. So
yeah, and I'm not really, I'm not the kind of person that likes to. Well, okay, I do kind of like to speculate, but, you know, we don't have a lot of facts right now, so we'll come back to that. But in general, like, whistleblowing is a timeless thing, and this is the current one involving Ukraine is definitely not the first and not the last. So
actually, real quick on that, there is one thing I wanted to discuss, and that's I saw in the news today that some politician was demanding that this whistleblower no longer be anonymous. They have a right to protection, but not anonymity. And it's like,
Hmm?
well, once they're not anonymous, what's going to stop them from being Epsteined or,
Uh, that's a good point. Yeah. I mean, protection in what way? I mean, being anonymous is the ultimate protection, right?
Right. Yeah. Like I think that's the thing people are laughing their asses off about this 6699 guy, um, is that he's got these giant face tattoos. There's no way he'll ever make it in witness protection. You know,
Yeah. But
there's no
I'm
anonymity with that guy.
yeah, and I'm pretty sure that in this case, especially since the Trump whistleblower, a lot of it's hearsay, so it's probably secondhand information. So very few people probably know who this person is, and that should probably stay that way.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, ooh, man, now that's a good point.
Yeah.
Jeez, God, that's I do want to talk about this, but it's other than the transcript, well, transcript, if you can call it that, that was released recently. The there isn't that much information yet, so we'll have to come back to that one.
Yeah.
Um,
All right. Well, I guess we probably covered a pretty good broad variety of whistleblowers in recent history, and we should probably wrap it up right there. But I would
yeah,
encourage people to check out our sub channel Kitchen Sink University, where we like to learn, and we like to share our knowledge, what little we have. So.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely check that out. And yeah, I think, man, sorry, distracted by the cat, um, as usual. Um, but yeah, definitely check out if you haven't, as a viewer, haven't checked out WikiLeaks. You should go there, see what it's all about. Go to cryptome.org. That's a really interesting site. Just see some of the stuff that maybe they don't want you to know, because you should know it. We should all know it, and we should be investigating and telling each other about it. And if you find out something bad that's happening, I don't think there's anything wrong in letting people know that something bad is happening, even if it betrays people that are an authority to you, whether it's religion or business, government or military or whatever. Like it's a noble thing to do. Um,
Yep,
uh,
I agree.
and just an opinion, but certainly keep the conversation going about that, because I know it is a highly divided topic.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
People have different views on different things, and in different circumstances too. So yeah, I'd like to hear what people have to think about that. What are your views on whistleblowing, and when is it a good thing and when is it bad? Like, when should you do it and when should you not do it? It might be a good place to start.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for deep sink diving with us, and we'll have a cool tune on the way. So
Oh
hang
yeah.
around.
And have a good day or night, everybody.
Keep this quiet, make no sound. There's a secret under